There's a shooter terrorizing the town. Do you really want us to watch a gross reality dating show?
The Black Hood sends a message to Riverdale, and since Sheriff Keller sucks, Archie takes things into his own hands. Let's break down this week's Riverdale, titled Watcher in the Woods. Hello, you lovely people, Lisa here, and hallelujah, we finally get more of Kevin Keller in this week's Riverdale. Granted, it's not a real happy storyline for him, and he's not his usual sassy self, but it's still more Kevin, right? Also, at the end of last week's episode, we saw the Black Hood shoot Moose and Midge, and now you can breathe a sigh of relief because it turns out both are still alive. Moose shielded Midge, so she only is emotionally scarred, while Moose somehow survived, which means the Black Hood has some of the worst aim I've ever seen, especially at close range. Oh, and you can breathe another sigh of relief again because Ethel survives this episode, so we don't need to launch #JusticeForEthel just yet. Let's start off with Jughead. So he's off to Southside High to meet his kind of school advisor, mentor, whatever you want to call her, who just happens to be Toni Topaz, who I have to say I'm loving as a character so far. She gives Juggy a tour of the school and he asks her about the school paper, which she informs him doesn't exist anymore. She also points out how all the kids at this school are basically doing the jingle jangle. Jughead then learns that Toni is a serpent, and he didn't know that because she wasn't wearing her leather jacket, which I thought was kind of like a required accessory for a serpent. Anyways, because she is a serpent, that's why she volunteered to show him around, and she also invites him to sit with the serpents at lunch, but Jughead declines, saying he's a weirdo. And by weirdo, I mean he just says he's a loner and he'd rather kind of keep to himself. Toni gives Jughead some wise advice, though, that if he wants to get through his time at Southside, he really needs to hang with the serpents. Jughead probably thinks he can be a loner and lay low, but that actually backfires when he proves he's probably one of the few smart kids at that school. He does end up convincing his English teacher, Mr. Phillips, to let him revive the school paper, the Black and Red, and Mr. Phillips says he can do it as long as he stays away from gangs and jingle jangle. He can't be in them or deal with them, but he can write about them. Jughead ends up recruiting Toni as the photographer for the paper, and he also meets some of her pals like Sweet Pea, who isn't afraid to call Jughead out for not hanging with them because he doesn't buy Jughead's beach bod excuse.
You'll ask for help from the serpents when you need it, but you won't hang with us? Don't come crawling to us, hat in hand, when some ghoulie decides to earn his stripes by taking out F.P. Jones's kid.
Jughead assures Sweet Pea there won't be any more favors going their way, and Toni has his back. Now when Betty comes to visit Jughead,
You cannot be here at night unless you are armed.
Well, I am.
he ends up telling her he had to pay dirt because no one was able to explain the local component of Clifford Blossom's drug pipeline, or the jingle jangle, but he knows it's coming from inside Southside High, and since the serpents don't deal in hard drugs, it has to be the rival gang, the Ghoulies, behind it. Now for a second, I actually almost forgot about Clifford Blossom's drug ring, but I'm kind of excited to see that flow back into this storyline. As for Ghoulies, that might sound familiar to an Archie superfan. It's most likely a reference to the Groovy Ghoulies, which was an animated TV show that was a spin-off of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which is actually a spin-off of the Archie comics. But you know what? The only Ghoulies it makes me think of are these.
Ghoulies. They'll get you in the end.
Betty tells Jughead she thinks it's not a good idea for him to write about all the drugs and that kind of stuff, and I kind of have to agree with Betty here. And it seems like someone else agrees with Betty as well, because Jughead ends up getting beat up by a ghoulie late one night as he's leaving school. He lies to Betty saying it was a motorcycle accident, but Toni knows the truth. Jughead ends up realizing that if he's gonna stay safe at school, he's gonna have to hang with the serpents, so he sits at their lunch table. Now for Kevin, he's acting out, wandering around in the Fox Forest late at night, hooking up with random guys, and it's because he seems like he's lonely and frustrated, and since Moose is with Midge, it seems like Kevin is really the only gay guy in Riverdale at the moment, so he doesn't have many options when it comes to love, so he ends up having to cruise the forest, and he's also been friend-zoned by Moose. At the beginning of the episode, Kevin is actually the one who hears the gunshots and finds Midge in the forest because he was cruising for guys. Betty starts to get worried about Kevin, which causes the two of them to basically have a falling out. Cheryl even gets in on it, meddling, calling Betty to tell her about Kevin being in the woods, and the two surprise him there, which leads to another confrontation. Later on, as Kevin's wandering the woods again, he stops at a parked car that has a guy in it. The guy is very aggressive and tells him to get in the car, and when Kevin does, this happens. And it's like, no, Kevin, No, not Kevin.
You know what? That's okay.
Oh man, you Riverdale writers are evil. Thanks for making it seem like Kevin was gonna die, or maybe not die, but get hurt. Thankfully, it was only a vision because it seems like the Black Hood's letter is really getting to everyone, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But Kevin is now freaked out and returns home and has a really nice bonding moment with his dad.
I know that there's certain things that we don't talk about. Maybe it's time that we start trying.
While you still suck as the sheriff, it's good on you for stepping up as a dad, Sheriff Keller. As far as Black Hood goes, he's decided it's time to send some fear into the citizens of Riverdale. He sends a package to Alice Cooper which contains a letter admitting to shooting Fred the adulterer, killing Miss Grundy the child predator, and shooting Moose and Midge the drug and sex addicted kids. To validate the letter, the Black Hood included Fred's wallet and Miss Grundy's limited 2 heart-shaped sunglasses. Okay, I don't know if they're limited 2, but I just assume they are. The Black Hood's letter also says,
"My wrath is the price of your lies, your secrets, your sins. I will not stop. I cannot be stopped."
So he's basically going after all the sinners in Riverdale, which I'm pretty sure is like everybody in that town, right? The mayor doesn't want the letter printed because she doesn't want to scare the citizens, but it's too late because Alice already sent it to the printer, and this letter has everyone freaked out, especially Polly, who thinks that if the Black Hood is going after sinners, then she's like the queen of sinners, since she's not only a pregnant teenager, but she was also like knocked up out of wedlock and knocked up by her cousin. She ends up running away to the farm where she and Jason were going to go and only tells Betty, so I just pray that she actually makes it there alive. The letter definitely gets into Archie's head too, but that's not the only thing. Hiram gets into his head as well. So Veronica is hell-bent on having her family be different this time around, and she wants her dad to be more included in her life and meet all her friends. So she has them over for the premiere night of The Bachelorette, aka basically The Bachelorette. Hiram says it's fine to have them over, but of course Hermione is there giving her disapproving glances. Meanwhile, Reggie tells Archie and the football team about what happened with Moose and Midge. So when Archie goes to visit the two in the hospital, he asks Moose about the shooter. When Archie later gets home, he suggests to Fred that they get a gun to be safe, but Fred is totally against it. Little does he know, Archie already has one. At Veronica's, Archie is so distracted by everything that's been happening that he tells the gang he thinks the Black Hood is targeting them. Hiram then appears, and after making comment about FP, he tells Archie that he knows Sheriff Keller isn't helping much, and sometimes the police aren't always the solution. Sometimes you just have to take matters into your own hands to protect yourselves. Hiram then invites Archie over for dinner later in the week, which Veronica is all for, but Hermione, no surprise here, is totally against, because she says she's trying to kind of warn Veronica maybe about Hiram's games or that Hiram is dangerous, but Veronica is just fed up with her mom and ends up standing up to her. I have to say, I missed the nice Hermione from season 1. Like, season 2 Hermione did a complete 180 and is totally the worst. I just want to know what Hiram did or what Hiram has done to make Hermione that scared of him. Things suck even more for Hermione when Hiram tells her that, you know what, the walls are thin in this house, even in his study, and he heard everything she told Veronica about him.
If you want to burn down your relationship with our daughter, that's your business. But don't ever try to poison her against me.
Archie takes some of Hiram's advice and goes home and pulls out the box with his gun in it from the garage. And that box also has a comic book in it called The Red Circle with a bunch of heroes on the front, like superheroes. Now the Red Circle here is a reference to the name of the publishing company that used to publish the Archie superhero comics, like the superhero division of the Archie universe. The Black Hood was a character in those comics, but it seems like that Black Hood is definitely different from the Black Hood on this show. Archie ends up getting inspired and goes to school and gathers Reggie, some football players, some other students, and Dilton Doily to form a watch group to focus on protecting Riverdale High and the people close to it, and it's called the Red Circle. Now there's no weapons or violence, but they're going to serve as an extra set of eyes and ears. One night when Archie is patrolling with Reggie, they get a call from Ethel, who was walking home and was followed by a van that she said pulled up to her and circled 3 times, but she didn't recognize the guy who was driving it. Archie then heads to Veronica's for dinner, but not before getting a warning about Hiram from good old Fred. At dinner, Hiram offers Archie some rum in his study, a place that Veronica and I don't even think Hermione are allowed to go. Now in the study, Hiram asks about the Red Circle and also tells Archie to basically stop sneaking into Veronica's room, and also,
You know, and never, ever hurt Veronica.
At first glance, Hiram does not seem that scary. Like, it's kind of like, oh, he's a cute dad, right? But damn, this dude is intimidating, and he even makes the hair on like my arms like start to stand here. Let's hope Archie does not end up hurting Veronica, because I don't know, Hiram's gonna get rid of him if he does. Hiram also offers Archie advice about the Red Circle and basically tells him that if the Black Hood is waging a war based on terror and fear, then Archie should really be using those as weapons too, because just defending yourself is not enough. And also, Veronica is listening in on this whole conversation. Now, the conversation inspires both Archie and Veronica in different ways. Veronica tells Hiram she wants to get her hands dirty and have a more active role in Lodge Industries.
I want to be in the room where it happens.
The room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened.
Meanwhile, Archie's inspired to gather a bunch of shirtless dudes, put some red hoods on them, and record a video message for the Black Hood, basically trying to intimidate him, saying,
We will find you. We will hunt you. And we will end you.
And who was watching Archie's little video and smiling? Hiram Lodge, of course. So why does Hiram want Archie to go after this Black Hood so badly? Does Hiram actually know who the Black Hood is? Because this makes me feel like he does. The drama of Riverdale and the Black Hood is starting to get really good, so let's watch next week's promo.
So much chaos and confusion.
I'm terrified. I got a letter. He's doing it for me.
Archie, trouble.
I want the Black Hood dead. I want to be the last thing that he sees.
Holy smokes, I gotta say, next week's episode looks amazing. Like, it seems like so much action is going to happen that I don't really even know where to start with this trailer. Betty says that the Black Hood or whoever is doing this for her, but why? He sends her a letter in some kind of code. The serpents face off with Archie's Red Circle. Why? What does this all mean? Is Jughead caught in the middle of that? I don't know. As far as this episode goes, like I said, it was nice to see more of Casey caught as Kevin. I am totally over Hermione, and I kind of want her to be the next victim of the Black Hood, because Lord knows she's got a lot of sins to pay for. I'm also really liking Toni Topaz so far. I'm excited to see how her character progresses, how their friendship with Jughead goes on forward. And I also have to say, I got a good chuckle out of how the show changed the names of things like Grinder and the Bachelorette to Grind'em and Matchlorette. Like, who ends up coming up with those alternative names? Also, thank goodness no one died in this episode. My favorite performance from this week goes to Casey Cott as Kevin. And as far as my favorite moments, the laughable one has to be this Jughead line.
Jones, you want to come with? Going down to the quarry.
Don't have my beach bod yet.
And as far as my favorite moment, it is this Dark Betty reference.
Except for when she's Dark Betty.
Right. Except for when you're exploring your BDSM sexuality, which again, you're allowed to do.
As far as just some fun, random questions and thoughts I had about this episode, for all the security it took Jughead to get into Southside High in the morning, how come no one is patrolling the school at night, especially when he's there by himself? Why is the school open that late in the first place? Moose totally should have been more seriously injured considering he was shot at close range and the amount of blood we saw in the car, yet here he is, coherent, talking, moving around, sort of, in his bed. Why is Fred so calm about the whole Black Hood thing? What does he know? Why does Archie hide his gun in the garage? Because that really doesn't seem like easy access in case an intruder came into the house. The portrait of Veronica that Hiram has in his study is super creepy. Why do jocks always feel like removing their shirts is more intimidating? And if Archie is the leader, why was his shirt on? Also, where'd they get so many red hoods so fast? Alright, so do you all have any new theories about who the Black Hood is? I know there's theories now that maybe it's Betty's secret brother, especially since the promo for the next episode says that the Hood is doing it for Betty. But I just have to say, Hart Denton, who's playing the brother, I just feel like his eyes and the bags under them, I don't think he really has that, and his frame doesn't really match what we've seen of the Black Hood so far. But then again, you never know. There's always kind of a lot of misdirection. I feel like it just has to be someone older. What kind of trouble is Jughead going to get himself into with the serpents? And also now that he's kind of investigating the whole Clifford Blossom Jingle Jangle drug ring. Also, will Veronica actually get herself more involved with Lodge Industries? And will Archie get himself into a lot more trouble now that the Red Circle is becoming basically like a vigilante group? Sound off down in the comments with all your new theories, and then after that, click right over here to get some scoop on season 2 of Andy Mack, or my Never Have I Ever interview with the band in real life. Now, if you love TV and movies, feel free to subscribe because I'll be here talking about all my faves all the time. Subscribe so you know when there's a new video. I'm Lisa. See you next episode.